Over the last couple of years, one of my biggest things that I've driven home on this YouTube channel is the fact that I think that buying low-end economy cars is the best business plan to use on Turo. In fact, I have gone as far to say that buying luxury cars or buying expensive vehicles can be an incredibly big mistake. And I'm here today to make a video to say that I was wrong, at least sort of. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about why I've kind of rethought this business model, why I think that I may have been wrong, at least in certain aspects of my belief system, and I'll be talking about how you could add luxury vehicles to your fleet, and you could do so in a really smart and strategic way. So let's get started. Now, over the years, I've found a lot of success with the business model of buying low-end economy cars, basically going as cheap as you possibly can while maintaining a safe and reliable vehicle. As a result, I've bought a lot of cars that are $5,000 or below. So things like Ford Focuses, Mazda 2s, Mazda 3s, Toyota Yaris's, things like that. But over the years, I've also started to experiment with higher-end luxury cars. For example, in 2008, I bought a Mercedes-Benz that didn't do super great on the Turo platform. I also owned a Jeep Wrangler, which was my very first car that I owned on Turo, and that car did well, though it was pretty abused. And over the last 6 months, I've added another Mercedes to the fleet, as well as a Maserati Ghibli. Now, the reason why HP and I added a Maserati to our fleet was to really put this entire discussion to rest. You see, over the last 2 years, a lot of people have told me that I was wasting my time by buying low-end economy cars, and I would be better served by buying a handful of more expensive cars, listing them for a higher price and making the same amount of money. So I decided to finally put this theory to the test. Are you actually better off buying high-end luxury cars versus multiple low-end economy cars? And over the last few months, as I've owned this Maserati, I've gained a lot of insight on which business model is best. But before we dive into what exactly has changed with my thought process, let's first dive into why I have this thought process in the first place. Let's say that you buy a $5,000 car for Turo. You can very easily list that car for between $30 and $40 per day. Alternatively, if you were to spend $50,000 on a high-end luxury car, that car is going to cost you 10 times more than your low-end economy car, but you're not going to be able to make 10 times more on a daily trip price. You see, a $5,000 car can be rented for $30 to $40, but a $50,000 car cannot be rented for between $300 and $400. Really, in short, the ROI for a low-end economy car is just significantly better than the ROI on a high-end luxury car. Not to mention the fact that with low-end economy cars, you can buy them in cash, where with high-end luxury, you oftentimes have to finance them. Not to mention the depreciation aspect, the upkeep, the maintenance. There are a ton of reasons as to why I'm a firm believer that low-end economy cars is the way to go. But what I've learned over the last couple of months is that though I do still believe that low-end economy cars are the way to go for the vast majority of your fleet, I do think that there are some exceptions, and I do think that high-end luxury has a place. And that is its place in your fleet to add some diversification. And that's where I think that adding a couple high-end luxury cars could actually be a really smart and really good route to go down. Diversifying is always a good idea. That's why over the last couple of years, I've gotten some two-door cars, I've gotten some small cars, I've gotten some SUVs, I've gotten some coupes, some hatchbacks. I've gotten a wide variety of different cars, and that's with the purpose of trying to diversify my cars as much as possible. But the one thing that was missing from my fleet was that high-end luxury aspect. Those cars for those people that aren't really worried about price and are looking for something that's a bit nicer. By adding both a Mercedes and a Maserati into my fleet, I've now been able to target those types of customers, and I've been able to go after a higher class renter. And to be honest, I've been really surprised with how these two cars have performed. In fact, a couple of days ago, I made a video breaking down my highest performing cars of 2021, and my Mercedes-Benz is my highest performing car. It very consistently makes over $1,000 profit per month. And my Maserati has been doing extremely well as well. It grosses about $1,800 per month, and once we pay for the car payment, insurance, and maintenance, the car makes about $600 in profit. But that could easily be washed away if the Maserati runs into an issue. Ultimately, where I think I was wrong with high-end luxury cars is that I still do believe that it's not a great idea to finance a bunch of high-end luxury vehicles for the sake of listing them out on Turo. I still think that is insanely risky, and I think it's putting all of your eggs in one basket, and at the end of the day, that's never a good idea. But where I do think high-end luxury has a place, whether it be a Maserati, a Mercedes, or any other high-end luxury car out there, is for the purpose of adding some diversification into your fleet. But I do think that there are some really important things that you should keep in mind if you're somebody that's wanting to go this route. Number one is the type of high-end luxury cars that you're going after. and this is still something that I am an absolute firm believer on. Not all high-end luxury cars are created equally, and you need to be really strategic with what type of car you buy, as well as which price point you buy it at. For example, let's talk about my Maserati Ghibli. The reason why HP and I chose the Maserati Ghibli for Turo is because of the fact that the Maserati has an absolutely horrible depreciation. You see, we bought a 2015 Maserati and we paid $29,500 for this car. If we were to buy this car brand new in 2015, this car would have cost us over $80,000. The depreciation of this car over the last 6 years is just absolutely insane. But the thing is, with this Maserati, it is at one of the lowest points in the depreciation curve. It doesn't have that much more to depreciate. Yeah, it will depreciate, but not nearly as much as it would have if we would have bought the car a couple of years ago. We strategically chose a high-end luxury car that had a really bad depreciation rate, and we wanted to choose the car at the point in time which depreciation had already hit, and the Maserati fit all of those needs. Additionally, another reason why we chose the Maserati is because of the brand name Maserati. Whenever we were trying to hone in and decide which type of car we wanted to get for our first high-end luxury car, we were deciding between a number of makes and models. We were looking at newer models, Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, Porsches. We were looking at a lot of different cars, but we wanted to find a car that was relatively affordable, and we wanted to find one that provided a bit of a wow factor to it. And the Maserati checked all of those boxes. Whenever you see a Maserati, regardless of how much that Maserati actually costs, you automatically think that it is going to be a luxurious car. A Maserati has a bit of a wow factor that a lot of other cars don't have. And the fact that you can get that for just under $30,000 is quite honestly a huge steal. So ultimately, we wanted to find a car that we could buy for a really affordable price, but one that we could rent for a pretty high premium on Turo. And we were able to accomplish this with the Maserati by purchasing it for just under $30,000 and listing it on Turo for about $125,000. In fact, if you look at Turo and you look at the cars that are priced for between $100 and $125 per day, you're going to find cars that are worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And the fact that we were able to get this same price range for our daily trip price without spending nearly that much is quite the accomplishment. And this is something that Maserati provides because of the fact that the brand name has a wow factor associated with it. But I do think it's important to note that there is a little part of me that feels as though I'm playing Russian roulette with this car because of the fact that we've owned it since August. Everything has been fine and dandy thus far, but of course, as you guys know, Maseratis are expensive and they are notoriously unreliable. And I do feel as though if we hit one bump in the road with this car, it will be a costly bump and it could change my entire tune on how I feel on this vehicle. But of course, only time will tell for that because I can't tell the future, but if I was a betting person, I would bet that at some point in time, we're gonna hit a hiccup and it's gonna be a costly problem. Ultimately, with the Maserati and with our Mercedes, which we've added to the fleet this year, I think that these two cars have taught me really one important lesson, that luxury cars do have a time and place on Turo, but the only way that they really make sense is if you can find them at a really good price and if you can buy them below market value. If you can do that, then you can absolutely make money with high-end luxury cars on Turo. I think way more than I originally thought you could, but I think that the price you buy these cars at is incredibly important. I would almost argue more important than the price that you buy low-end economy cars at. Because of the fact that high-end luxury cars are more expensive, they have more cost, more maintenance, more repairs, more depreciation, and thus more risk, I do think that if you choose to go this route, you do have to be more strategic and you really have to pay attention to which car you buy, which price point you buy it at, and where in the depreciation curve it is. Now, one thing I would like to note is that though my view on high-end luxury cars have changed, at least a little bit, I do still think it's important to emphasize the fact that my views on financing have not changed. I'm still a firm believer that paying for your cars in cash, or at least not over leveraging yourself with debt, is something that you should be hyper aware of as you grow your Turo fleet. At the end of the day, you will never have control of Turo. There will always be aspects of Turo that are 100% out of your control. For example, if you were to get kicked off the platform, if Turo was to change their terms of service, if Turo was to change the vehicles that they offer on the platform, all of these three things and more can drastically affect your profit margin, how much money you make, as well as your longevity on Turo as a whole. And if you're somebody that is over leveraging yourself for the sake of growing your Turo fleet, I simply think that you are taking on a lot of risk that is ultimately out of your hands. But I also think it's important to note that I did finance my Maserati, and that was really because I was uncomfortable with the idea of paying $30,000 cash for one single car. But that is why I ultimately don't think I'll end up growing my fleet with much more high-end luxury cars, because I'm uncomfortable paying cash for that big of a purchase, but I'm also uncomfortable with financing it as well. So I'll probably probably be sticking to low-end economy cars. Ultimately, you guys, I wanted to make this video because over the last couple of months, I really have been experimenting with the high-end luxury game, and I've been trying to keep an open mind to this business model. And though I still don't think it's a good idea to have exclusively high-end luxury cars, in fact, I don't even think it's a good idea to have the majority of high-end luxury cars, I do think that they have a time and place in your Turo fleet. And by adding some diversification and also adding some spice in your fleet as well, I think that they can be really good investments if you buy them at the right price and if you buy the right car. Like always, you guys, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. If you guys want to check out my car sharing masterclass, this is a course where I teach you how to run a car sharing business with the same business model that I use. You can use the code LUXURY to get $25 off. So I will include a link to that down in the description below. And like always, if you guys could hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, I'll see you guys in the next video.